All right, boys. Hope everyone had a good week. Talk to me about some dad wins and fails that we may have had.
I actually had a music gig last night.
Ooh,
Shout out a couple
nice.
people stopped by, so appreciate that. But yeah, it went well.
How were the tips?
Not great.
Okay.
I will say though, it's not. I will say I got some good feedback, but this particular venue is pretty rough
Yeah.
on that because where they place you and yeah, it's just a little awkward. But
Did you plug the podcast while you were playing?
maybe not?
Or maybe not.
How do you enjoy it? Like
I do. That's the only
personally?
reason I do
Yeah.
it. I mean, it's like I lug so much gear. My trunk is full of gear. I set up. It's a 3-hour music gig, and it's if you didn't love it, you wouldn't do
So
it.
what like when you're doing this? Obviously, it's acoustic or whatever.
Right? Yeah,
close,
sing and play
whatever.
acoustic. Yeah.
How what's your like favorite song or favorite type of song to sing?
Well, it's funny because you typically play songs for the people, so you
Yeah.
kind of play the hits, right? So I play stuff from like the '60s all the way till now. But there's a song by Colin Hay, who was the lead singer at Men at Work, if you know that
Yeah,
band.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Right? He went solo. He did this song. It was like a B-side track on a soundtrack.
Yeah.
But I just love this song. It's in a cool tuning, like he detunes his guitar. And it's funny because I played that last night, and this guy came up to me right after. He was like, "What was that? I love that song."
You're like, that was magic, baby.
Yeah, I was like, and but I've only had one person, and this is the also kind of fun thing. Sometimes you pick a song for you, but then you want to know if anyone else would recognize it.
Yeah, sure.
And there's only one guy that's ever actually known that song and
Did
what
he
it
yell
was.
it out?
He came up afterwards. Is that Colin Hay? And I was like, yeah, that was. So yeah, that one's always a fun one to
cool.
play. Like I said, there's a couple you got to do for you just to keep you interested.
That's what I would
that you
assume,
just like
yeah.
to play. And I have a little loop pedal too, so like I can lay down some rhythm on my guitar and then it'll loop.
Like
and
an
I can,
Ed Sheeran
and
loop?
yeah, and then I can play lead right over that. So that also helps like fill that time. Like I can do like long intros, or, like long solos.
Yeah.
Like, this guy's taking another solo, you know. But it that part kind of keeps it fun and spontaneous.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Nice,
I wish
nice.
I had like musical capabilities.
I have,
like,
I have zero musical
I
talent.
don't.
Hey guys, it's
I like
never
it.
too late to start.
Like
you
I
know?
think I do, but I just
Yeah, we'll come cheer you on next time.
There,
but,
yeah. I didn't see you guys out there.
Yeah,
actually,
we
so,
were busy with that thing.
Yeah,
and
other
that
stuff.
thing. Andrew had that rash that we needed to get looked at. Anyway,
together.
I don't know. I just need a joint excuse at that point. Well, I did have a dad win
Yeah.
this week. So you know what's really cool is, and my kids are a little bit younger than Andrew's, and you have some kids older than mine too. Is seeing this natural transition of them just starting to become like best friends.
Oh,
is
yeah.
really
That's
interesting,
really cool.
especially like as girls
Yeah.
too. And so my eldest has been in some kind of schooling program for about 3 years now. This is her 3rd year. So she's a seasoned veteran, and every morning it's awesome. Like we've gone from 3 years ago using school as a threat to be like, listen, you're going to go to school if you're not doing whatever, to now it being a threat saying, listen, if you don't behave, you don't eat your breakfast properly, you
You
won't
don't
get to go to
yep.
school. And it's crazy, the change up. My youngest, on the other hand, this is her first year of any kind of schooling program. So we had this, transitionary period of getting her like acclimated to being away from both my wife and I, especially my wife. And so, there were some tears one morning, and my eldest just like unprompted started to like, console her, but also like just give her like prompts around how to like, be good at school. Hey, you get to have playtime. You get to have a snack. You get to do this. And she goes, and also, sissy, look at daddy. Daddy doesn't cry at work. Daddy goes to work. I don't cry in front of her.
His door shut a lot.
Weeping behind his door.
I have allergies, okay? But it was kind of cool because she gave her sister this whole pep talk, and the
That's
last piece
awesome,
of the
man.
pep talk was, and look, daddy doesn't cry at work. He's so brave.
Yeah.
That
He's
is-
so brave was the last part.
That is awesome. That actually reminds me, I had to have a conversation this week on the way to school with my 2 oldest girls on the way to school about how to be aggressive if you need to be aggressive. And so like there's a part of this where especially like my kids, especially my oldest, it's not in her nature. She's so kind. But I'm like, look, you're hitting an age where people can be mean. And if someone's being mean, you kindly ask them to stop what they're doing.
Yeah.
If they don't stop, I'm like, you need to get loud. You need to say it again, but this time say it loud, and not like smiling, but you need to be kind of mean.
Yeah.
Because then you're going to draw everyone's else attention around, and everyone's going to look what's going on.
Yeah.
And then most likely the person that's doing it will maybe get embarrassed or stop or.
Yeah. And if they don't listen, take this shiv I made for you.
Yeah, take this. But I had them doing it in the car. Because again, it's one of those things
We do
where
that too.
you have to practice it. If you don't practice it in the moment, you're going to get nervous. Your your emotions, your heart, or your feelings are hurt. So like, But if you practice, so I literally had him yelling in the car, Stop saying that, or what? I'm like, say it again. This time, be mean.
You're like in character. You're getting carried away.
It was great. It was great.
Awesome.
So, teaching.
As long as you weren't insulting them to get them all riled.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Don't get me started on your mother. Well, that's a not so easy segue into today's topic, all about managing family finances. And this topic kind of came up from a couple of discussions we had with some dads around how folks manage, their respective finances, things around managing it with your respective spouse, and the transition from having, one kid to multiple kids and how you think about finances. So I'll kind of kick it off and that's, setting the scene. But I'd be curious to understand from you guys, how do you guys manage the finances in your respective households?
Yeah, I'll jump in. It's my wife. So when we first got married, my wife was she was a cosmetologist or hairdresser or whatever. But we got pregnant pretty quickly, and the whole point was like she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and so we made that happen. So just naturally, like I just was, like the finance guy in the house, right? Just I took control of kind of like the day-to-day, paying the bills, kind of all that sort of stuff. So. It hasn't really changed up to this point. It's kind of the same thing. But
how does that work its way in terms of like, any kind of budgeting that you guys do? Do you guys budget?
I would love to say we really we have like a hard budget, but we don't have a hard budget. We have basic understanding of what things, like what we spend on things. But it's not like, we're not a Dave Ramsey family where like we have every dollar assigned before we earn it or anything like that. But we have, I would say we're more prudent. We spend less than we make, that sort of thing, on an average, week, month, whatever. But no, we don't have like a hard budget, and it's actually something we've been talking about. Like, should we get a hard budget? Should we not get a hard budget? So
it's interesting. I've tried over the years to do some kind of budgeting, and obviously finance is like in my nature, and so I can happily share with you some spreadsheets. But like, you try it, and it just never works. Like you've got like your baseline costs. So you've got like your baseline costs around like whether it's, cars or mortgage and, some form of utilities. It's all like the ancillary costs where Amazon packages start coming in or food shops happen or whatever else happens. All like the, all the ad hoc expenses that come up that you then look at your budget and you go, well, I didn't account for that, or that. And I find like myself getting more irritated when I'm not within my respective budget.
Yeah, well, that's the point. That's what you're supposed to do.
That is the point. So I choose the opposite. I choose to bury my head in the sand and just ignore everything. I think the main thing is my wife and I, from the very beginning, and we never had a conversation about this, but we're very aligned on like what we deem to be like value for money. So like I know when she goes out to like do the food shop, she's done like the most prudent shop possible. Yeah. And I think I shared an example with you at one time where I saw like all the chunks of watermelon she had bought and was like, well, what's the ROI on like a whole watermelon and then the cost of that? And at that point I exited myself from the conversation. It's just not worth it. But I think when you and your spouse are both aligned on the value of money, you kind of know. None of us have expensive tastes. I know, and vice versa. She knows I'm not going out there and buying something sort of frivolously for X amount. That's going to be, a stupid decision. But what about you?
Well, it's funny. When we first got married, we did a book swap. So like she gave me a book to read. I gave her a book to read. Okay. So she gave me this super cool book. I gave her Financial Peace, Dave Ramsey's book. Dave Ramsey, yep. And she looked at me like, are you serious? Like, this is the book you're giving me.
So are you a Dave Ramsey guy? I know the premise of Dave Ramsey, but like...
this is the thing about that book that I'll say. That was the first probably book on any type of finance she's ever read or like looked into. His stuff his books are very easy to read. His concepts are very easy to grasp.
Sure.
And so it actually was super helpful for us to start that conversation to get on the same page as far as like what we want and how we want to manage our finances. Is there a reason you guys
did that book swap? I'm curious.
That was just like a thing. We were just like reading a lot of books. When you have kids and you're married, you're just like reading a lot of books. And we're like, hey, I'm going to give you a book. You give me a book.
Remember free time?
Yeah, back in the day, we had some little thing called free time.
So like, were you? So you were a Dave Ramsey guy, like when you were single?
Yeah, I think I knew some of
Yeah.
the principles about it, so I wasn't like I had never gone through the program or anything like that myself. But I heard the radio show.
For
so,
the
like, I knew
record,
some
most
stuff.
of what Dave Ramsey says, as a general rule of thumb, makes a ton of sense.
It's not, he didn't create these principles.
Yeah.
These
No,
are
he
like
just-
basic principles
yes.
of like
Yeah.
like before Dave Ramsey was a thing. This is how my parents taught me to like manage my
Yeah.
money. Like
Yeah.
I would get an allowance or something like that, and they'd be like, okay, you have to divide it up like this: 50% goes here, 15 goes
Yeah.
here, 5 goes here, whatever. Like, but then the nice part about that was like I would have, and because I'm like a delayed gratification guy, like even though I had a percentage that I was allowed to spend on candy or whatever,
Yeah.
I like never would spend
You
it.
never spend it.
I would just keep
You just
saving
hoard
it
it?
and saving it and
Nice.
saving it, and then like I was like such a miser with it. But it instilled that in me of being like, okay, you got to put this
Yeah.
away for this and this away for that.
Yeah.
Because my parents lived by the same set.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
there were so many
I
of
think-
us. And
I
there was
think
so
that-
little to go around.
Well, how has that changed since marriage, like since being married and now having kids?
Honestly, the principles haven't changed that much. It's really you just need more money because you have work every time you have a kid. You have to figure that out, and obviously the buckets change to where the money's going for the kids. But it's funny. I feel like people a lot of times talk about. There's even a recent poll or article about why people aren't having a lot of kids, and they talk about finances. But I feel like when you have little babies, it doesn't really impact your. Like, I know it can.
Yeah,
like if there's
I agree with
problems
you.
but I feel like it gets overblown a little bit because I was
do.
expecting this like, oh man, it's gonna cost so much money to have a kid. It's like
Well,
they don't really eat a lot of food until they're like
it's actually
teenagers.
interesting you say that. So I think I've shared a statistic or similar statistic on a previous pod, but the average cost to raise a child, not including college, is about $310,000 over the lifetime.
Yeah.
So people look at that stat and they're automatically thinking I have to write a check for $310,000.
I would love to see how that's broken up. To be honest,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So funny you say that. So the second highest expense for families after your housing, right? So obviously housing doesn't factor into the cost of raising a kid, but it's daycare / childcare.
okay, that makes a lot of sense then.
And that's about 15,000 up to 15. Well, and again, it depends where you live, right?
Yeah.
Like I have friends who live in New York and California where it's extortionately more. But on average, between 11 to 15,000 per year per child.
yeah, so
That's where
a
it
big
really
chunk of things.
that's where it really adds up.
Yeah.
And we are fortunate on our side that my wife does get to stay home, but then most families then have to kind of run their own respective cost benefit analysis around, well, I have X number of kids, and if I did daycare versus my wife went out to work, what do I ultimately end up with?
Right. We do that at our house because my wife works. So
Yeah.
there's certain days that she's in the office. So we have daycare. We have people that we have someone that comes to the house.
Yeah.
And actually my parents have been a huge help because ever since my oldest was born, once a week they've been coming to watch, and they're both retired, so they can do that now. But that's a huge part of the budget. It's that those costs seem to just be increasing like year over year. And I hear what some people are paying for babysitters, and it's crazy, man. Depending on the city you live in and what part of town, you can get. Yeah, it gets very expensive, man.
Nuts, yeah, I'm glad we're past babysitter phase. Like we have all built-in babysitters now,
that's nice.
for the most part. So it's
saving a chunk of money.
It got dicey there for a little while. Like they don't make $3 an hour anymore.
Right, I know. Yeah, that's what you think. Did you guys have that tension? So you said you were pretty frugal when you got married, but did you guys have that tension like with your wives when you first got married about like the grocery budget?
Oh, dude. I mean, even today, I
yes.
still have like tension with it.
Did you not hear the watermelon story?
I'm like, how does this even make sense? And she's like,
All right.
she's just like, well, tell me where I shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Tell me what I shouldn't buy.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I get the same
But like,
thing.
we'll use like, I mean, now it's getting to a point where like I'm feeding kids. Like
Yeah,
we're
you
feeding
got-
people now. There's a lot of people when they
She's
just
not
like,
making breast milk anymore. I
no.
mean, we've just-
This is like we go back to those days.
Yeah, right.
produce. But like, no, we like, so it gets, I mean, when we have chicken, so like last night she made some chicken dish, and I want to say it was like 10 or 12 chicken breasts or something
Wow,
like that.
yeah.
And like everything.
That's like
was gone.
3 or 4
just start a
pounds.
bag of
why
mashed
don't you just
potatoes.
raise vegetarians?
That's probably not a bad
Save
idea.
some money.
Intermittent fasting. Actually, guys, we're going on a 72-hour
Yeah.
water
Yeah.
fast.
And then if a kid eats like, so like we typically pack our kids lunches, like for the majority of our kids, they get packed lunch every single day.
Okay.
But there's a couple kids who get to like eat at a cafeteria.
Yeah.
And have you do you guys know the price of like eating at a cafeteria nowadays for
Wait,
kids?
can I guess?
Guess what the average kid spent, at least this isn't public school. These are private schools.
High school kids.
High school kids.
Just for lunch?
Just lunch.
No snacks.
No snacks, just lunch.
$20?
I'm shocked. Yes, it's kind of right in that area, like $15-ish.
I was gonna say
15 to
15.
20.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
I thought it'd be like
a lot.
$6.
Yeah.
Like I thought
Isn't
you'd
it,
be like
subsidized or
I thought the whole thing. I thought it was like, well, no, you've paid tuition to come to the school or
Right,
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
But no, it's like, but my son, he's a football player. He eats a lot of food, but he'll spend like in 1 week, he spent like $100 and some on cafeteria food, and I was like, well, that's never happening
Wow.
again.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's like, all right, well, this is what I can get, and like when you look at what you can get, it's like still like $12 to $13
Wow.
Yeah, man.
to eat like a
It's more
hot
than my lunch
cafeteria
budget.
lunch, which is just like I was like, I don't even spend $10 or $12 on food every lunch. This is insane. So I'm like, those are the costs that I think creep up on you, and when you're living like a tight budget. So I'll give you a story that was, I was probably the tightest we ever were. We had just bought a house. We moved out of my in-laws, so like we sold our house, had to find a place to live. So we moved in with my in-laws, and we had found a house we bought, and we were having our second child, and I argued for a raise, and I thought like, okay, I'm in it now, and I went from like, I want to say like $68,000 to like $75,000 a year, or something like somewhere in that range. So like not below poverty line.
Yep.
But we were having our second kid, and I paid my mortgage, and we had like $900 left. And I remember looking at my wife being like, how in the world does anybody even afford a vacation? Like, this is
Right.
insane.
Yeah.
But I'm like, don't worry. I got this raise coming. It's basically whatever, $6,000 or $7,000 more a year. We're going to be awesome. Well, whatever it was ended up triggering me into a new tax bracket. And I didn't calculate the new tax bracket. I ended up making I think legitimately like $500 more per year, back to me because because of whatever the threshold was. Yep. And that was like a rough span. That was like we were like, it was rough, dude. It was like potatoes, pasta,
Rice and beans.
It was like that
How does that impact your relationship? I'm just curious.
My wife and I?
Yeah.
We've never my wife, God bless her. It's like she actually came from a pretty well-off family.
Yeah.
But she's never really cared about money. She's never really cared about stuff in general. So I kind of lucked out with that being the case where she was never like, oh, I wish I had this or I wish I had that. It was kind of like, okay, well, if I have $5, I've got $5. That's what I have, as opposed to kind of worrying about like, oh, I wish I could have a Birkin bag like someone down the road has. That sort of thing.
Pointing at Matt. Yeah.
Not getting that Birkin bag, bro.
Whatever it might be.
Yeah.
She's always been fine with it.
Yeah,
We've had up until recently, we had used cars for the most part, like all the normal.
No, I mean, the reason I asked you
stuff.
that is because 77% of parents say the number one stressor for them is money.
We don't. We have a rule that you're not allowed to talk about finances after like 9 o'clock, because you're already
That's
tired.
smart. Yeah.
And like if it's a money issue, or you're worried, and you start. It's like the worst thing to do before you go
It's
to
a good
bed.
rule.
What other rules you have? I like
Well,
them.
the funny thing about that actually, so let's say
I break it all the time.
no, if we're like sitting in bed talking, if I
Yeah.
start talking like not our personal finances, but if I start talking about stocks or like any investment, dude, she's out within 30 seconds. I mean, it is like an instant.
1 second. Anna, hostage tape. That's what you need. Just
Put
shut
it on
your
him.
mouth. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's actually it's a known topic that'll put my wife to sleep in
What
about 30
about
seconds.
how you talk to your kids about money? So you gave that pretty good example about the cafeteria, because you don't want to make your kid feel bad.
Yeah, no.
About spending money, and I'll share sort of my wife's view on money when we first got together, and she's not really like this anymore. But I think when she was growing up, they almost had this like scarcity mindset.
When you grow up, yeah. I mean,
But the scarcity mindset was like I think her mother in particular was effectively using money as using money as a way to like weaponize it as a threat. So also from like a really large family, and when kids were misbehaving or if money was tight, there would be comments made about a lack of money versus not being able to afford bread or milk or whatever else. And so it was somewhat weaponized, which I think is obviously not the right way to go about it. So there's always this like scarcity mindset that they may be potentially running out. Curious what your guys' experiences were.
Well, you can start. I've got a pretty clear experience, but go ahead, Matt. How you're
I think
you grew up anyway.
No, I was just gonna say for us, we definitely had to figure that out like that first couple years of marriage, because I do think two people walk in with totally different mindsets.
Yep.
I mean, and again, I got married when I was 29, so I lived by myself as a single guy for a long time.
Yeah.
I could do $30 a week at the grocery store and be like, this is plenty of, this is all we
I'm
need.
good.
Cans of
And
tuna,
then
some rice.
My mother-in-law, she always has literally like this cornucopia of the most beautiful fruit you've ever seen. Like their pantry's stocked, you know, a good Italian kitchen, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's where Anna came from. And so like to her expectation is like, oh, we should just have food overflowing everywhere. So yeah, we had to work through those things, and we still are working through those things. Like, but she does have that like buy it nice or buy it twice type of more mentality.
Yeah,
that's where I came from. The total, I'm like bargain value, like that's kind of more like I saw in my family.
Yeah.
And but it's funny because like the older you get, you realize
it's always
you do get what you pay for.
Yeah.
Now there's some stuff still that I'm like, that's just a brand name. You're just paying for the brand name.
Yeah.
But there is a very real truth to
That's
like,
also a dad way of handling things as well. When you talk about brand names.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Now, so like when you grew up though, did you? What was your? Because your dad was like was gone a lot.
My dad traveled a lot for business.
Yeah. Not just go. Like he traveled a lot. He was a good dad. He just traveled a lot.
All right, so you and your absent father. What were you?
Let's talk about that. Let's be a whole episode. No, they travel a lot, but like neither of my parents came from any money too.
Yeah,
So again, that was all new to him as well. So he was part of some really successful businesses during his career. But that, to your point, that mindset carries. It doesn't matter what you're in. It carries from your childhood.
It's almost like a disease.
Yeah.
Like that scarcity mindset of like, there's only so many dollars in the universe, and if I'm taking this dollar, someone else is losing a dollar, which is actually completely false. Like that's actually not how money works.
Yeah.
I mean, good or bad. That's
it's also how the government wants you to operate as well.
That's what I'm saying. But
sure.
it's not how it works. So anyway, growing up in that mindset, and with that mindset, you start making decisions that are different decisions. And I don't think it's necessarily bad. Like what's weird is like looking back, we didn't have a lot growing up, not negatively. I'm not saying this in a negative way, but like growing up in the large family did. Every dollar was like, you talk about every dollar having an assigned value the moment it's earned. Like my parents were like, it was like every dollar they knew what they were able to and what they weren't able to do. But the weird thing is, like you were talking about, like it was never like weaponized against us.
Yeah.
You know, you'd maybe say things like, oh, it's not in the budget.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Or like, most of it was like, well, you don't need that to be happy. That sort of rhetoric, as opposed to whatever. So like how I look at it with my kids is, you know, we try to have as open of a dialogue with my kids as possible about money. Whether it's, you know, about, you know, maybe not specifics, but more about like philosophically about like what and how you should approach money.
It's not taught in school. That's the thing. So if
Well,
you're not
no,
talking
like,
about it at home.
how
You're
you
not learning
save
about
it.
personal finances at school.
The importance of like, in my opinion, the importance of philanthropy, and like if you are in a position to give, how do you do it? And then, but how do you even do that effectively, right? Because it's like there's a million people with their hands out. And actually reading through Rockefeller's book, what's funny is like it starts with like when his philanthropic efforts start, it's like he's getting thousands of letters a day of people just being like, I think you should give me $2,000. Like literally just, I think you should. And I don't think the human hasn't changed necessarily. So like, how can you help, you know, whether it's a little or a lot, how can you help impact the world through, you know, philanthropic efforts? And I think no matter where you are in the spectrum, and I'm not using this as any sort of condemnation, but wherever you are in the spectrum, there should be an effort to at least train your children to understand, like, you should figure out a way to help others that are worse off, because there's usually always somebody worse off than you.
Yeah. And
so like, how do you do that? And whether it's like, you may not have monetary way to do it, but how do you give time or whatever it is to do that? So, you know, with our kids, we kind of look at the whole thing.
Yeah.
So like when you spend $100 on food in the cafeteria for a week, it's not just, you know, I'm going to, you know, smack your hands or something like that. It's more along the lines of like, dude, do you understand what $100 of food buys? $100 of food buys like an entire tribe in Africa food for a month. Like it is not like, it is not a little thing. And so making sure we can, you know.
Yeah. So do your kids have piggy banks then? How do your kids, how do you save money?
Have you guys seen green cards yet?
Like an American green
No.
card? I have one. I have one, to be clear.
Easy ice. No, they're called green cards. They're like debit cards for kids.
No, I haven't seen these.
They're awesome. So like when you have when you're handling money a lot, like actually one of my sons just had his wallet stolen and he lost like $300. He was pissed. But
that's 2 days of lunch.
2 days. But we've actually switched to green cards, and so green cards are like they're like a debit card, and the kid has a checking account, and you can like load money on it for them, and then you could break it up into different areas where they're like, okay, I have so much to spend this month, I save this much, so like gives them these good habits.
Cool.
But it's a debit card at the end of the day, and it also helps them realize like when you get of age and you get your first credit card and you start swiping that thing. Man, I remember the first time I had a credit card at a $500 limit, and I remember I got like my first bill was like $396, and I was like, "What did I spend $396?"
Yeah, exactly.
It was like a big eye opener to be like, "Okay, this is a dangerous trap for you to be in with a credit card."
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
And I'm not one of those guys who thinks credit cards are evil.
Yeah.
I use credit cards all the time. I'm a big proponent of paying it off at the end of the month, all those things, because it is a slippery slope. But this, at least, the green card, I think it's called green cards.
Is it an app then that you use with it?
Yeah,
Green light? Is it green?
I'm sorry, green light. You're right. Green light.
Yeah. Okay. Have it written down the show.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Really?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we use Greenlight,
Okay,
and so it's an app, and as a parent, you manage it through the app, and you could turn the cards on and off and do whatever. But it like helps your kids have a healthy relationship with money and spending and all that sort of stuff.
Sorry, my heart was racing once he said green card. Times. How transparent are you guys like with your kids about like family finances?
We try to talk about it. My kids ask questions, and I feel like there's no reason to not be honest about it, because I feel like
you can be too honest. Like I gave you the example of like my wife's family.
No, that's true, and but there is, I think, with the lack of like education and personal finance that I felt, at least like in school, I don't remember anything about that. It's helping kids get a grid for like how much stuff costs, where money comes from, like how they can effectively use money. I do think like as parents, because that's just a taboo topic for some reason. Like there's a lot of parents that just will not talk about money, or they just, they don't make an intentional effort to do it.
The biggest taboo one is, when your kids start going to stores and they start demanding stuff, and it could be something small. And it's like, my whole shopping trip could be so much easier if I just cave into this.
Right.
And get them that piece of candy.
But you can't, dude. You can't.
No, they're just looking for that leverage.
I grew up in the opposite way. I remember giving my parents veiled threats, being like, well, if you buy me this now, I'll be really well behaved for the rest of the shopping trip. Seriously.
And did it work?
You're setting terms?
Every time.
Really?
Every time.
Oh, no.
Every time.
If one of my kids said that to me, I'd be like, looks like you're sitting in the car, or let's try this one and see how it works for you.
But it's it's about staying firm and being stern and doing all of that stuff, because I definitely took advantage of like my parents doing all that stuff. But then my parents would also have the weirdest threats. Like I also remember, when like back before car seats were really a thing, all of our siblings would be like crammed in like the back seat of a sedan, and when you're that close proximity, you're constantly hitting each other because people are in each other's space. Sure. I remember my dad pulling the car over one time. He's like, all right, that's enough. If anyone yells, I'm pulling you out of private school. I was like, what kind of threat is this? I was like, okay.
All right. Yeah, that's funny.
So it's just bizarre. I think you could be a little bit too transparent sometimes with like the threats, but also too transparent like with the finances too. So it's a slippery slope. What about like hacks? Like what kind of hacks do you guys have at home? Whether it's to save money or teach your kids about money. You obviously mentioned the green light card, but what else we got going on?
Well, my kids are a little bit older, so it's probably more like it's a little bit easier for me to talk to them about it. But like, I'll talk through investments with them. Yeah. Like, hey, we're thinking about doing this, or hey, whatever. And I try. I mean, I obviously don't like necessarily name names, but as we either look at companies to buy or we think about things. My older kids, and I'll talk to like my top, maybe 3 or 4 kids, especially my top 2 boys, they're really interested in understanding about it. And so we'll talk whether it's, a deal around a real estate idea, or, an actual business purchasing, or why something's not going as good as we initially anticipated with the investment, or how do you do capital allocation from an investment standpoint, all those types of things. Yeah. To where we take a very, very hands-on approach. And the school that most of my kids go to, it's called Acton Academy, and it's a very like hands-on school. They do a business fair every year, and the business fair isn't just like, oh, make something weird and sell it. They do the whole gamut of like building a product, understanding what your ROI should be on that product, what your price point should be, going all the way to selling, and then whoever makes the most money gets an award and all that sort of stuff. That's cool. So it creates a lot of conversations on the dinner table of like, that's cool. Well, what would your COGS be on a lemonade stand? Or what would your COGS be on a this or that? And so they're getting familiar with understanding like, okay, like there is some sort of cost associated with me selling or delivering a product to the marketplace.
With investments, did you guys get them into investments early with like a brokerage custodial account or anything like that?
No. I'll just talk it through
Okay.
with them. I haven't I think in school nowadays they'll typically do they'll have one buy stock, see how it does for the year. I think they're doing that in a lot of schools now. But no, I more talk about because that's very passive, right? You're putting money into the market.
Yeah.
I try to talk to them more about the active capital that you can actively impact. And so we do that. And then we also do, like I said, one of my buddies turned me on to this where you do what are those called? A donor advised fund.
Yeah.
Like a DAF. It's called a donor advised fund, where instead of necessarily giving your money right to your church or your, something that you believe in, from a donation thing, you put money into your DAF or your donor advised fund. You then can invest that into equities. And then when you donate that, it's all tax free. And so you basically multiply your donations, and you don't have to feel forced you have to give this money to something. Because I remember growing up where my parents would be you have to set between 10 and 15% of whatever you earn, you have to set aside and give to the church or give to whatever. I always would feel I have to give it away, else it doesn't count. And basically training your kids, listen, you have to have a giving heart. And you have to do it in a way that that you feel in our case you feel that the Lord is asking you to give, right? Or you feel that it's something you should give. And so by providing these donor advised funds allows them to be an active participant in our family giving, and so they participate in that. I think it just makes them realize we have a calling and we have a responsibility to be good stewards of what's given to us, and that means not just what we give to others, but how we spend our own money. So kind of going back to the buy it nice or buy it twice scenario, I won't buy a nice vacuum because no matter what vacuum we've ever purchased in our entire life, they always just explode. So we bought Miele's, we bought these super nice thousands of dollars vacuums. They've all just absolutely crapped the bed.
Even the Dysons that you bought?
Dude, I've James Dyson.
Don't get him fired up.
Charlatan,
Don't get him fired up.
I know he's your UK boy, but
Dyson makes the best hair dryers I've ever seen. They are
maybe hair dryers, but they're vacuums. We've burned through those vacuums. Those stupid stick vacuums that are supposed to pick up all the pet hair. We burn through those things like nobody's business. So there's some things that we're super super.
I'll tell you what one good
Dyson.
I'll tell you one.
Fired up
He's
over
untouchable.
There,
I didn't realize the one thing the UK made.
We are trying to get sponsorship with them. Would you mind? One fun one that we do, and then I'll move on from this topic, is every time our kids have, whether it's birthdays or Christmases or any kind of big gift giving thing coming up, we always have them donate older toys with kind of this caveat, or more so the understanding that these toys are going to someone less fortunate than you guys. So they've got this very early understanding of okay, we can't be inundated with toys. And if I'm going to be getting new toys, then I have to give away new toys or older toys as well. So that's always been
that's good.
A fun one on,
we actually
on our side as
have
well.
a hack too for Christmas, but
I just don't get anybody anything.
No, because it comes around every year, you know what I mean? Yeah. And most people don't really plan for it too much. But if we get any type of little boost, I call it, my mom's let's give us $50 for anniversary, something like that. If we get anything like that during the year, we put that into the Christmas fund.
We would do the same thing.
Really. So by the end of the year, anything is better than nothing. You're hey, at least we got a little bit here that we plan to spend just for Christmas.
That's good. Now, I want to ask about marital, because I think a lot of people are listening to this and oh, those are all good stories. But what about when it's not a good story? What about when the marital strife happens over finances, right? How do you guys navigate that, or what have you guys done in the sense of your wife really wants to do something, or you really want to do something, but that does mean you're going to have to fudge the budget, or something else is going to have to give.
Fudge the budget.
You know what I'm saying? You're going to have to be oh, I'm going to rob Peter to pay Paul type deal.
Yeah.
How have you guys navigated those discussions? How has one person won or the other person, maybe not won, but how have you guys come to a conclusion? Because I think we all have good marriages here. And
it's usually me who is trying to convince my wife of the splurge.
Okay.
So she's
she's more of the saver. You're more of the spender. I'm just saying, from a high level.
Yeah, from a high level. Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Or you're more comfortable with risk maybe than she is?
That's a much better way of framing it.
Okay.
I am way more comfortable with risk
Yeah.
than she is. Yeah, that's a much better way of framing it. And so whether it's the buy it nice or buy it twice mentality, or whether it's an asset producing investment is better than a liability portion to it. Like I'm always in that camp of like, I would rather buy something a little bit more expensive or something that's a cash flowing asset to do ...
Yeah.
Whereas she's more, and similar to like how my parents were as well, and maybe her parents, it's more of around the saving mentality, and some of the Dave Ramsey where you'd much rather see, a few $1,000 in your account, knowing that that's there for a rainy day,
Sure.
in case something comes up. Whereas I look at like a bunch of money in my account, and I'm like, that's just not going to work. That could be better allocated here or there. So I would say a lot of what we get passionate about is never about like a frivolous purchase. I think we're both smart enough to never do a frivolous purchase without air quote running it by the other person. But I think just from a mentality standpoint, I'm more of the risk taker and she's more of the steward of like the more frugal nature of things. But
if you're raised with the scarcity mindset,
but you also can't do one without the other, because without her, Lord knows where I would be. And I would like to think vice versa. So like you pull the saver out, they pull the saver out of you, and you pull the sort of risk take out of them. So you do become a nice balance for each other. So it is kudos to her, because she's also very astute and savvy when it comes to like just business stuff as well. Yeah. And so she'll know like if I'm, talking out my ASS when it comes to, a deal or something like that. So I think, we balance each other out, but I don't think we've necessarily had anything sort of too conflicting.
Any big ones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
well, I think for us being on the same page, like she knows like where our money is and where we're at.
Yeah.
And so, and she's a good saver too. So like, there's not a lot of times where we're just like arguing about a big spend typically.
Yeah.
Our stress, I would say, more comes from like the future of money. Like how we're going to take care of this, because you see things coming, or you have another kid and you're just like, that's more where I'd say that's
where the larger
stressful
numbers in the future start scaring you, because you're like, oh, the cost to raise a kid is this. But if you take it day by day, month by month, year by year, I mean, most of it tends to work out, as long as you're not overspending from the future to borrow from.
Exactly. Yep.
To borrow from your present.
What's your favorite thing to splurge on together, like as a couple?
We love experiences.
Okay.
So even like last night, it was my wife's birthday. Happy birthday, babe.
Hey, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
But we went out for dinner yesterday, and it was like kind of like almost like a tasting menu type thing. And I knew midway through the order.
Oof.
No, not even the cost, just the sheer amount of food.
Yeah.
But also, I guess, the cost.
Yeah.
But I just like, we're away from the kids.
Yeah.
It's a great ambience. We're both having a really good time. Like, I just love date nights with her.
That's great.
So like, just splurging on experiences with each other is probably like my favorite thing to do.
Are those like typically food oriented, like date night? Is it always just kind of like, okay, we're gonna go?
Yeah, usually. And
so no, what's that song? Applebee's on a date night.
No Applebee's, baby.
No Applebee's on a date night. For you?
No Taco Bell. Nothing.
What about you guys, Andrew?
I would say we're similar. Like we're not super materialistic. Like there's not many things that we have or do that are like. I mean, we have. I'm not saying we don't have nice clothes. We have nice clothes. We have nice things. I'm not saying we don't. But I think we're more oriented around like going out, having a good time together, spending the intimate time together. Anything we do for our kids, we typically do for that. It's not really like I'm not someone who's going to go out and buy myself like a $2,000 driver or something like that. Like I'm not, or like whatever, $1,500.
Yeah.
I'm just not that type of person typically.
I'd rather buy a $5,000 driver.
No, my wife will do something like that
for you.
Which she always is like, she's like, this is just like, I'm like the shadow purchaser for you, because like I know you want something, and you'll be like, oh really? It's a $500 putter. I would have never done this for myself.
Hey, those are great gifts though. And
they're fantastic gifts.
Yourself.
They're fantastic gifts.
Yeah.
No, but I would say we split. That's kind of where we splurge more, is like those type of things. How about you guys?
We love to travel, but I will say, like, since we had started having more kids, it's just not like we traveled like internationally a few times before we had kids. I love to travel. She loves to travel. She studied abroad, you know, so she's done a lot of traveling. But that's something that we're always like,
how do we get back to
we're
there?
setting that up where they're like, all right, this is it. We're saving up. We're going to do it. We're going to get this trip.
Well, it's a good thing you're having another kid because you won't be able to
Dude, every time we have another kid, I'm like, you know, this is going to set us back a
4
couple
more
years.
It's saving years. Think of them as saving years.
Dad think
Oh yeah. I'm like, either you got to do it when they're before they're 2, so you get that free plane ticket. Otherwise, it's going to be a little bit of a setback.
Let me ask you guys one more question before we move into dad interests. What's one splurge you'll never regret?
One splurge.
Yeah,
I would say there's some vacations that I knew we were getting a little over our skis with.
Yeah.
But it was just like, I'll tell you one story. This was right around the time we just got the house and whatever else. And I'm like, we got to afford a vacation somehow. And so I found these new villas that were being built at the Grande Lakes in Orlando. So like they have the Ritz-Carlton, they have the Marriott Grande Lakes, and then they were building all these condos. And if you went down and listened to their pitch, they gave you like 4 nights
the
free.
timeshare pitch?
Yeah.
Nice.
They gave you 4 nights free, and then they gave you SeaWorld tickets and like some water park. And so I was like, all right, if we drive down there, and basically like the whole trip was going to cost us out of pocket like $450.
Yeah.
Including food and everything, because we like packed and whatever else. And even that was like if anything went wrong on that trip, it was going to be like so we end up going down there, but you had to like go and sign in to say you were there to listen to this seminar thing. So I like walk up to the lady with my one son, and I'm like, listen, ma'am, I know what I'm supposed to be doing here, but I can tell you right now, there is nothing you're going to say that's going to allow me to be able to afford one of these condos. And she like looks up at me, looks at my kid. I'm like I can go in and sit in this, or you can give me my afternoon back and I can go play with my kid in the water park. And she's like, well, have a nice day. So we end up going but that was one thing where like I knew it was a gamble doing it because I didn't know how hard the sell was going to be or whatever. And we ended up going a little bit over on that trip, but it was like one of those trips that I remember going back to. And like my wife and I still talk about that trip today because of like, it just felt like we were maybe a little bit too far of our skis, but it was like a real focus. It was a trip our kids and us needed at that time. So it was fun.
That's cool.
My answer was just self-care, but yours was really deep.
Yeah.
To me, it's like spa day.
Literally. The Dyson hairdryer, obviously.
Right. Which funny story I bought from my wife as a birthday present, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago. And I've hoarded it to this day.
A gift to yourself.
Yeah, it's a gift to
myself.
myself.
New bowling ball. Thanks. Your name on it.
Well, let's move to dad interests. And I have to share one with you guys. So, as you know, my wife is just over 7 months pregnant at this point.
Yeah.
And
how did that happen so fast?
I know. I feel like
quick.
that's...
When you told me what you
announced
would do, I was just like, wait a minute. Mathematically, that like almost doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
So anyway,
I know. But it's getting to crunch time soon, and so I got invited on this golf trip that I'm heading to down in South Carolina over at a place called the Tree Farm. I don't know if you boys have heard of the Tree Farm.
No.
But looking forward to it. But I have to give her a big shout out because she's gonna hold it down with both kids.
Wow.
Pregnant with twins, school run, drop off, everything. So,
Are you bringing the hairdryer? That's what I want to know.
I
of course
will be.
he is.
Of course. I checked an extra
Irene's
bag.
gift. Yeah.
Bringing the hair products. If you're gonna play bad golf, you have to look good doing it.
How much of stuff do you guys pack in your golf bags when you travel that are not golf related?
Oh, yeah. As much as you can fit.
Yeah,
Like shoes, like
yeah.
all sorts of stuff. Your
As much
cigar
as you
case,
can.
everything.
Yeah,
You just jam everything in there.
Everything you
It's
can.
funny.
I mean, look, I'm looking forward to it, but there's obviously a lot of dad guilt. And
Yeah.
it's actually less so dad guilt; it's more so husband guilt.
Yeah.
Well, that feels like a good place to end. How about you take us home, Matt?
Sure. Send us some comments on what you guys think are some hacks for if you have any finance hacks for raising kids, as well as any topics you want us to cover. You can follow us on any social media channels. You can subscribe. That way you know every time a new podcast comes out, which has been once a week. And outside of that, thanks for listening.
Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.